Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here, so thanks for coming. I think we got a good full house. Beautiful Puget Sound refinery out of Washington State. Now, while you read that, I want to ask you a few questions. Okay? Does anybody know anybody that was born before 1950? Okay, so everybody does. They are from industry, or they grew up in industry 2.0. Does anybody know anybody that was born from 1968 up? Okay, they were born and lived during industry 3.0. Okay, now I'm looking across the audience here, and I just take for a minute and think about what you were doing in July or the summer of 1990. So think about what you were doing. Okay, now you've got something. Now you're at lunch and somebody comes to your table and whispers in your ear, and you know what they whisper? They whisper, hey, the first digital native was just born, 1990. So that's what they whisper. Then we go on to 2010. And guess what starts there? The first person that is going to grow up in Industry 4.0 is born. So if you can see our ages, they incrementally decrease. So the time between ages was 100 years, 200 years, then it becomes 40 years, and then even less. In 2020, the researchers say that you're going to talk more to chatbots than you will to your spouse. Okay? In 2028, that digital native that was born in 1990 is going to be using all the digital infrastructure you are putting in today. And in 2028, will you even still be there? So you'll be there to build what they're going to use, but you won't be there probably to see them use it. By 2030, the largest company is going to be an online education company. That's what the predictors say. And they're basically going to be instructor chat boxes that teach people personalized information on what their specific needs are. So if you think about it, what we're doing today, we've got to get ready for 2025, 2028. Because actually, cyber physical systems came about in 2006. They were first started. Okay? Now, who watched the Super Bowl? Did anybody watch it on a device? There we go. So I had to go out. I saw some poor guys in a valet parking spot. They had to sit there, but they had their device. They were watching the game. Other people were watching the game. I have colleagues in Europe. They watched the game on devices. So if you look at this, and if you looked at last year's records, they were better than the year before. But this one, we had digital consumption. So we've got the Super Bowl has set streaming records. Less people watch it on TV. More people watch it on devices, whether that be an iPad, an iPhone, whatever it might be. So you see the trend, okay? We're becoming more connected wherever we are, even if we're typically what was called disconnected. So that person sitting in the parking booth taking tickets, typically 5 years ago would not have been watching the Super Bowl and probably would have ruined his or her day. Now he's got it right there in the palm of his hand. Next thing is, and I'm going to just go over the circles here, 60 seconds on the internet. 4.3 million YouTube views in 60 seconds. That's more YouTube video views than WhatsApp text, which is at more than Google searches, which 3.7 million. Now you look at WhatsApp. Did you think WhatsApp would have beat some of these other text messages? 38 million and 187 email messages. So we're going digital and digital pretty fast. So my son has a bunch of things on his iPhone and things. I don't even have those things. I wouldn't know how to get it. And if I ever hear something from him, I say, well, what stream did he send it on? I don't know. This is a part of the story, and I'm going to spend a few minutes on this because this is really the meat of my story. And I'm here to tell you a story. Every story, whether it's your personal story in your life, whether it's a story you read, has what's called an arc of drama. And I'm calling this the arc of digital drama. So everything's going to have a protagonist, a hero. And that hero wants or needs something. So in my case, I need the digital features and benefits that present better solutions to today's modern learner. The antagonist is what wants to change me. What's the villain in my show? And that's the culture, the people, the process, and systems. They're coming after me and fast. Every corner I turn to, one of them or all of them meet me. The exposition, it's setting the stage. So when I go to my communities, what do they want? Well, a site, I want my status quo. I don't want to change anything because I control it how it is today. Or I want to do it the way I do it. I like my vendors. I like my ways of working. I built them. And if we change them, maybe people will think what I built wasn't that good. Fourth one is rising conflict. So you go to a theater, a movie, a play, you're going to see the conflict rise. When we started our digital journey, we had all kinds of questions about iPads or Androids, intrinsically safe, bandwidth, all these questions. So every time we made a decision, it was a new decision. So none of them had been made before. We were pioneers in what we were doing. Then you get the rising tension. So I found out that cloud was going to cost me a lot of money. I thought I paid the vendor to build the solution. Oh, but you want to use it? Well, it's going to cost you money now, and it's going to cost you per user. Well, I said, my goodness, I didn't think of that. Well, who would have? But I get explained to management, now I need another $300,000. So then you've got to figure that out, and that sets the tension. They say, are they going to think I don't know how to do my job? I just took this risk on all this cloud stuff and this digital stuff and these iPads and these procedures. I think my bosses might not think me expert, doesn't know my job. It's a fuzzy space. But again, you've got to pilot, you've got to prove, you've got to take each concept as it comes and work with it. Then you have that falling action. So we released attention. So we sorted out the cloud. We sorted out the iPad. We sorted out the runtime speed. We sorted out all these things. And people start saying, hey, we learned stuff. Boy, Shell never knew this before, and now we did. Now I can share what I did, my little $150,000 project or whatever amount it was, but I can tell the entire organization what I learned. So I'm actually sharing my costs that I've learned, or my failure, my fail fast, learn fast. Resolution. Now I've got it. I have 18 behavioral modules that we're putting out. My new employees at Shell say, I wish my supervisor would talk to me like this avatar does. Or this is badass when I give them digital procedures in the field. Or we're winning awards because people want to know about how we're doing things and what we're doing. The next thing I'll talk about is just this bit here. My goal, my aspiration is my rate of learning that I create at Shell and the infrastructure behind it is greater than the rate of change around it. And if you look at this last thing, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but why we're going digital, I am responsible for the learners in my organization. That's my target. Those learners are in a new environment, a connected environment, and I need digital dexterity, which digital dexterity is what's my organization capability to adopt to the dynamic changes needed to implement and utilize digital. And the frame here is really something simple. I won't spend much time on that. But these are our areas of Industry 4.0. And I'll give you the dates. You can see those there. You can see the catalysts there. And you can see the main themes. So in the mechanical age, it was instead of a person or a horse turning or pulling, it was a mechanical instrument. In the next one, it was electricity. It was a light bulb. But the light bulb really wasn't the thing. The thing was the plug. So when you look at your hair dryer or whatever else you have that you plug in, it's the light bulb that started that. Did Edison think he was building a hair dryer? No. He thought he was building a light bulb. But the intended stretch was certainly more than that. Again, if you look at the automated bit, it's magnetic tapes, if you might remember those or some of those. And the last thing is, it's the cyber physical systems. It's the digitization and the sensor technology and the Internet of Things and all those things that we look at. Now what I'm going to do is there's 4 things that you need to recognize and realize change. You need a case for action, okay? You need a sense of urgency. You need the capacity to change, which is both the intellectual capacity and the organizational capacity. And then you need actionable first steps. So I just want to be careful of time here, so I'm going to zip through some of these. My sense of urgency is this is the context and the environment that I work in. We've got a connected plant, so I've got tons of organizations in manufacturing that are working as hard as they can to get good performance ratings and look good, and they're trying to digitize their spaces. I've got digitization that's driving that, and then I've got what we call asset performance management, or our asset management system that's giving us a framework to apply that all against. Now what happens if they do all of that and they get a connected worker, but I don't produce a modern learner? I've got a disconnect in my system. So I don't have the trilogy of the connected plant, the connected worker, the connected learner. And I'll just show you this for a second. This case for change was that Shell and your company have pretty much been doing training like they've always done for the last 100 years. Okay? Some major things. When we came up with OSHA, we started to have some assessments. We started to do some face-to-face and things like that. Then the 80s came with e-learning and things. That's nice. But the modern learner, and it's a great study by Burson and I think Deloitte, they want to be untethered. They don't want to be tied down to a chair. They want things on demand. They don't want to wait a minute or 2 minutes. They want seconds. Collaborative. They want to be able to get to you, and get an answer as fast as they can. And they want to be empowered to go find what they need when they want it. They don't want to be tethered down to somebody telling them where they should go, or I'll wait till the June 16th course is on the schedule. Okay? And I'll just do one more thing with you on this one, too. I see somebody wanted to get a picture there. They're overwhelmed. Why are they overwhelmed? Because we got so much digital stuff going on. They're distracted, again, similar reasons, and they're impatient. So these are the things we're trying to remedy. So for each one of these things, I've got a countermeasure. Okay? So I've talked to you about the connected plant, and that's a sense of urgency. If I don't change, the world around me is changing. The next thing is you need the capacity for change. When you do digital, you need to do personas for all the people you're doing digital for, because they are the customer. You have to look at the full spectrum of what they do and find out the opportunities. What are the quick wins? What are the hard challenges? Where are the roads that we pave? And how long is going to take us to deliver these things? So we've got these things, and I've got a heat map to tell you which ones I'm going to do first, second, and third. The next thing is actionable first steps. Now, you can't read a lot of this stuff, but I've taken categories, and that's why you see colors on that chart. And if we had more time at some point, I'll tell you more. But basically what we've done here is we've used different types of solution sets for different types of digitization efforts or applications. So we've got AR, VR, we've got digitized content component management systems, we've got training content management systems, all these types of things. So that's really where we're at, and we're doing more and more. Now, the last thing I'll say to you is just a little bit of the final thoughts of all this. And then I think that's it. Yep, I'm done with that. So you need the case of change. You need those 4 things I'd mentioned. You need the sense of urgency. Technology is going to advance faster than people will. Human behavior does not change as fast as technology changes, and you've got to remember that. Each catalyst that comes about, whether it's a sensor, whether it's whatever, if it's a good catalyst, it'll spread. Okay? It'll burn like wildfire. You'll have so many applications where you won't know what to do. When we started to do content component management, I had a line of people lining up around, hey, here's the bright ideas we can do next. You're always going to have your antagonist. That's why you got to remain a protagonist. You got to remain the hero. And if your POCs don't fail in part, you're only challenging the status quo. You're not challenging innovation, okay? So I'll leave you with that. So my message here is you're all part of a drama. You got to figure out what's your story, and you got to figure out what role you're going to play in that story. Thank you.